Welcome back to another episode of the World Famous Pod. I'm your host, Mason, and today we'll just be getting into the Cotton Bowl. So this is semifinal round of the college football playoff. We have the number 8 seed Ohio State going up against Texas, the number 5 seed, down, like I said, in the Cotton Bowl, the 89th Cotton Bowl down at AT&T Stadium in Texas. And a lot of storylines for this one. This is the fourth ever meeting between these two teams. Texas has a slight edge in the overall record. They're 2-1 against Ohio State. The last meeting coming in 2009 in the Fiesta Bowl, where Texas barely edged out Ohio State, 24-21, and that's kind of plays into one of the storylines, one of the many storylines for this upcoming game. That being that the loser of the Cotton Bowl will then get a rematch against that opponent, that the team that beat them in the season opener. So Texas travels to, in the beginning of the 2025 season opener, Texas travels to Columbus to play the Buckeyes. And again, hopefully they are the ones that are trying to seek revenge from a loss in the Cotton Bowl and not us. This is it'll be a way for maybe one team to either swing the overall record back in one direction, back in their favor, or another team to pile it on. I hope it's the good guys doing the former rather than, I hope it's the Buckeyes winning. That's what I hope happens. That's what I'm trying to say. Another storyline I guess I picked up here is that while the game itself is being played in Dallas, basically the backyard of the Longhorns, Ohio State fans tend to travel well, but also I have on a trusted source that I heard it somewhere on the internet that Dallas, outside of Columbus, is the largest base of Ohio State alum. So we have that going for us. Really looking forward to another game on the road where Ohio State fans have good reason to do Stadium Ohio, and we can all hear it from the comfort of our homes if we're not able to attend. That we can pick up the OHIO through the speakers on our TVs. This game as well. One of the other storylines is that Ohio State can kind of avenge its loss last year to Mizzou. In that snooze fest of a Cotton Bowl game where basically the entire offense decided to sit out or transfer out out on us, and this is a chance for them to kind of get a little bit of get that monkey off their back and kind of get things back on the right track and advance to the college football playoff. The last point here has been the one that has pretty much dominated like my social media feed when it comes to the one of the storylines between Ohio State and Texas, and that revolves around Texas quarterback Quinn Ewers. I don't know if many of you remember, he had a very memorable time at Ohio State. He played 3 snaps, and he handed the ball off all 3 times. So Quinn Ewers came in as part of the 2021 class, I believe, and he graduated early. There's a weird reason I guess he wasn't able to get NIL money from Texas due to state laws or state rules. So he was able to get his $1 million bag. He was kind of one of the first trailblazers of the NIL era. Got his mill, came to Ohio State, realized that he wasn't going to play over C.J. Stroud, who ended up being a Heisman finalist. So after a season, he bolted. He went back home to Texas, and he's been really good at Texas. I don't know if he's ascended to the all-time greats, but he's been very good, and he's set himself up to have with some decent draft stock for the NFL once this season is over. But I know that through his interview, I think they interviewed Ryan Day as well, and they talked with them about kind of that relationship and what that's going to look like from their standpoint. And Quinn Ewers had nothing but nice things to say about his time at Ohio State and the relationships that he built here, and how much he's going to look forward to seeing these guys. And Ryan Day had some really nice things to say about him. That's why he was a great talent, and that's why he offered him in 8th grade. And just a lot of lip service. From my vantage point, Quinn Ewers, he came to Ohio State for he got the bag and bounced. Realized he wasn't going to play and left. Like he didn't want to be a Buckeye. He just wanted to start and get paid. Realized he couldn't do that at Ohio State, so instead of sticking it out, he left. End of story. If I'm on a Jim Knowles, or if I'm the defensive line coach, the linebacker coach, even the safeties coach, if I'm any staff member on Ohio State's defensive staff, I'm telling my players, not in front of the camera, but that this guy didn't want to be part of the brotherhood. He just wanted to get paid, and he left. He left high and dry, which is the last thing that all these seniors know about him, because they all came up in the same class. The seniors now are the same class that Quinn Ewers was in. So, that's kind of the bulletin board material for what I'd be telling those guys going into this game. There's been a lot of, I think Steve Sarkisian, the head coach of Texas, has been fishing for some bulletin board material for his guys. He knows that Ohio State is the betting favorite. I think they're 5.5-point favorites, 4.5-point favorites, something like that. And he's been coming out and saying kind of playing the woe is me card. They're such a great team, and we're going to have a tough time with them, and everybody's betting against us. No one wants to give us a chance, and it's going to be basically a road game for us. We're the visiting team. That's why they even chose to wear their road whites. So Ohio State gets to wear scarlet in the Cotton Bowl, which is awesome. But he's kind of trying to throw the rat poison out there to see if the Buckeyes players or coaches will bite on it, and it'll kind of give them a little bit of a big head going into the game. And in a lot of the player interviews since that came out, players were asked about it, and it was business as usual. It's the win against Oregon doesn't mean anything if we don't win this and then get into and win the national championship. So as soon as the Oregon game was over, all the players' attention switched over to Texas. All the coaches' attention switched to Texas, even on the plane ride home. It was short celebration, and they've been all business trying to prepare for this. And I forget which player it was, but I think it was Sonny Styles who talked about the difference in prep that they get now during the bowl season. It's like, well, he goes, we don't have classes, so and Ryan Day does a great job of managing our schedule so that we can remain solely focused on the task at hand, which is beating Texas. So again, I don't think there's been any big-headedness coming out of any of the remarks that Sarkisian has made. I know that the Texas media, like Texas sports media, and those entities that surround the Longhorns are trying to play this as a Quinn Ewers get back game for whatever he might be feeling towards Ohio State. And even he came out and said he had a great time here, and whatever that case may be. I don't know what the animosity towards Ohio State would be. They gave you a chance to come play here. They gave you $1 million, and you left on your own accord. So I don't buy any of it. I think Ohio State doesn't buy any of it. The players don't buy into it. I think it's all business from their standpoint coming into this game. So I'm happy to report that, and hopefully that we get the best team that we can, or the best version of this team that we've seen the last 2 weeks shows up in this game as well, because they are going to need it. I think this is probably the best matchup that Ohio State will face this year. Texas is a great scoring team. They have a great defense. They're just a well-rounded unit not compared to anybody, but with each team that Ohio State has played, there's another added piece that they have to try to overcome. With Tennessee, it was just getting past the dynamic defensive line, how good that defensive line was. For Oregon, it was kind of getting over the hump, making sure that, again, it was the defensive line, and then it was a much more powerful offense, and they got past them. And then this time, it's a good defensive line, a good offense, and a really good secondary that can match up with your receivers. I think every one of the players that's in Texas's secondary is 6 feet or taller, whereas Oregon's were 5'10". They averaged a height of 5'10". So a lot less mismatches this week coming in. We'll kind of get into that. I'll talk about Texas offense first, and then we'll get into their defense. But through the college playoff, again, coming back to Quinn Ewers, he's thrown for in 2 games. He's thrown for 524 yards. Completion percentage is 68, almost 69%. And 4 touchdowns, 2 INTs, and he's taken 5 sacks. This offense, they've got a running back, what's his last name? Wisner, gone for over 1,000 yards this year. They have solid wideouts. Their number 1 wideout has, I think, just under 1,000 receiving yards this year, and a really solid tight end who's their second leading receiver on the team. Great push on the offensive line. Quinn Ewers is kind of the guy that the offense runs through. And what I mean by that is that the ebbs and flows of the offense can be attributed to Quinn Ewers. So when the offense is clicking, he's got a hand in it. But when the offense is not clicking and they've stalled, it's probably his fault also. And he's been prone to having these lulls in offensive production over the course of the game. They had against Clemson in the first round of the college football playoff. They were out to a 24-10 lead by half. And then Clemson on 2 occasions in the second half made it a 1-score game. So they let them back into this game because they couldn't close the door on them. Arizona State, they led them by 16 at one point. Arizona State came back and was able to force Texas into double overtime where they eventually won. So again, another instance where Quinn Ewers is not sealing the deal and closing the door in games where that should happen. Where on the other side of the ball, Ohio State's offense, they've started fast, and the offense and defense has kind of come in and slammed the door on teams early. Not really letting them get up from pinning them down and just beating the living shit out of them. So that kind of bodes well for us. He is a little bit more prone to throw interceptions. A lot of his passes this year, he said, his better throws this year have come where he's got really good protection. This offensive line, they're good. They like I said, they have a 1,000-yard rusher on their team. Against Clemson, he ran for 292 yards, but they've also allowed 33 sacks this year. And Ohio State's defense within just the last 2 games has gotten 12 sacks. They had 8 against Oregon last week, a team where they got 0 the first time that they played. So I think the Ohio State pressure is going to be what makes Quinn Ewers. It's what's going to force him into making some bad decisions and some bad throws, maybe holding onto the ball too long and coughing up a fumble. Something like that. That's going to be one of the big reasons why Ohio State wins this ball game. Is the turnover, winning the turnover battle. Guys, I think the Ohio State's defense is there's too many matchup nightmares on Ohio State's defense. They get really good pressure. They've gotten really good pressure just by rushing 4 these last 2 games, which has been not the case all season long. I think the way that Jim Knowles has dialed up this defensive line, they are playing just some smash mouth football. Linebackers are getting involved in the blitz game as well on some delayed blitzes, getting in the backfield as quarterback spy. A little bit more last week than probably this week will be. Dylan Gabriel was a little bit more of a threat to run than Quinn Ewers, but overall I think. And then the safeties over the top. They've got 3 safeties. One is basically just like the guy that Caleb Downs that just roams the defense. Looking to make a play. So I think Ohio State. Texas is going to get their points. But in the end of the day, I think Ohio State has the defense to stop this Texas offense and make Quinn Ewers put the onus on him to either win or lose the game, and hopefully lose the game. Jumping into on the flip side of the ball, the Texas defense. This team, like I said earlier, the secondary probably matches up best with the Ohio State wide receivers. They're big, they're tall, they're fast, they're athletic, and they're physical. A much different story than the secondary that we saw in the game against Oregon. And they also boast Jahdae Brown he's the Jim Thorpe winner. He's the best corner in college football. And as a whole, I think Texas has 21 interceptions this whole year. Even Will Howard came out in his interview, and he's the basic scouting report on them is that they sit in zone coverage a lot. It's because they're freak athletes. They rely on their instincts, and they try to bait you into making mistakes and making bad throws, or trying to fit a ball into a tighter window than what's actually there, and that's where those turnovers happen. So I think that coupled with the defensive line, another one that just gets really good pressure. Ohio State has faced this, the last 3 games of the season. Michigan, Tennessee, and Oregon. They've had really good pressure. They've had really good defensive lines that get pressure that was supposed to get pressure on the quarterback. And with the exception of, I don't know that in the Michigan game they really got pressure on Will Howard because they just ran the ball a bunch. So they really just hit our running backs because we tried to just run right at them, which was stupid. But Ohio State's offensive line, in speaking on keeping Will Howard clean, has done a fantastic job against teams that boast a really good defensive pressure, or a defensive line that gets good pressure. And especially these last 2 games, that's where the pass game is really open. Will Howard in a clean pocket has had a successful pass game, which has then opened up a successful running game. The one was able to feed the other, and that's a huge testament to our offensive line. And that's going to have to be another. This is just another big game for them. They're all going to have to play real well, keep Will Howard as clean as possible, allow for the passing game to kind of influence the running game. That way they can just feed off each other. I think early on, they're going to play. It's going to be tight. Or I think it's going to be difficult. I think you'll see less down the field early on. You'll see a lot more just quick passes, trying to get guys in space, find those pockets in the zone defense that Texas presents. And then once they're able to kind of soften them up a little bit, or get them to where they figure out when they can take their shot, you'll see a deep shot, maybe late in the first possession or even into the second possession. I don't foresee much running of the ball unless it's more misdirection stuff, kind of like how they did these last 2 games. On some counters, some tosses, getting guys in motion, stuff like that. But again, I think this Chip Kelly and Ryan Day, the way that they're working on the offense together, getting creative, taking what they've done in the past and adding little wrinkles to it, like we saw against Oregon, on the first play of the game where they had G. Scott peel off the bubble screen there and go for 20, 30 yards or whatever it was. I imagine there will be more of that to come against this team. They're going to cover Jeremiah Smith. They know that he's a threat. Like, if that wasn't apparent enough, they're going to make sure that they have one eye at all times on number 4. With that being said, I think that opens up a lot more opportunity for guys like Emeka Egbuka, Carnell Tate. I think he could have a huge game for this team. And then I think G. Scott as well, our tight end, could have another or a much more impactful game than he has been, or growing impact rather that he's been seeing. So I think look for those guys. they're going to obviously throw it to Jeremiah Smith. Like, don't get me wrong. They're not going to ignore the best player on the field. But like I said, this is going to be the most challenging defensive secondary that we've seen. I think our boys are up to it. They've looked the part. They've talked the talk. They've walked the walk. And let's just see if we can go ahead and get a W. I know, like I said, they're favored by 5.5. I think it's like 53.5 for the over or for the spread. I don't know gambling. I just know that that's the total points of the two teams combined. So I think Ohio State 31-24, Ohio State in a game. I know I've been saying it, but this one's going to go all. This one's going to go all 4 quarters. I feel it. Everybody's good in this college playoff. There's not bad teams, so you can't just say that because they've romped the other two that they're just going to romp this team. I think, like I said, Texas is a good team, but Ohio State, the boys will prevail, and that's all I got on this one. So appreciate y'all for listening. As always, go Bucks.